moving into our final topic of the night, and that is Indiana announced today that they have fired head coach Archie Miller. I'm going to start first on this. I've actually been calling for Archie Miller's firing for the last couple of weeks. Indiana, this is what Indiana thinks they are. Indiana, the fan base thinks that they are this great of a program that is supposed to be up here, when in reality they're down here and stuck in mediocrity. The fan base still thinks that this is like the 1980s and the 1990s during the Bobby Knight era. But I hate to break it to all the IU faithful over there. It is not that, or you're not that anymore. You're mediocre right now. And Archie Miller, he's a good coach, but the problem I had with Archie Miller, Loro, and Sammy is the fact that this guy was in 4 seasons. Did you guys know that Indiana was one of the worst shooting teams in the Big Ten? In all 4 seasons, he was there as the head coach. Like, I get the fact that one season you have a bad shooting year, fine, we can excuse it. 2 seasons, you got to hire a shooting coach, but we'll excuse it. But 4 seasons of bad shooting each and every year, that's inexcusable, man. He should have hired a shooting coach to fix Indiana's shooting woes, but he did not. And, Indiana, they've just been going down or just stuck in mediocrity in the 4 years that he's been there. And now that Archie Miller is gone, Indiana, if you want to be back to the program that you were back in the 80s and the 90s and where your fan base thinks you are, go get John Beilein. John Beilein knows how to win. He took Michigan to 2 national championship games. John Beilein, I think, will step in there and he will change that program and he will bring Indiana back to where they were back in the 80s and the 90s. But, Sammy, I'm going to start with you on this. What's your thoughts about Archie Miller getting the boot at Indiana?
I think he came into a bad situation, or not a bad situation, but a very unlucky situation. He stepped into Indiana at the same time the Big Ten started, having schools like Rutgers and Illinois rise back onto the scene. And, it was really bad luck for him. And he started off, his first 2 years were not too bad. I think they went to the bracket the second year. And then the last 2 years, this year he didn't make the bracket at all. It was a below 500 season. And the year before that, I think it was a 500 season. But, it's hard to compete in a conference like the Big Ten when you're a team that is average or below average. In a conference with 8 to 10 tournament contenders year in, year out. It's hard to compete like that. And as far as moving on from Archie Miller, I don't know what you do, because you cannot expect any coach right now to hop in Indiana and, recruit the Fab Five and completely bring back the program in 2-3 years. It's not going to happen. This is going to be a process. You have to recreate your reputation, rebuild it. And Indiana already has a really good reputation of being a really good basketball school. Tyler Zeller, I do believe, was not too long ago. Victor Oladipo, that wasn't too long ago. So, you still have some basketball history that is relevant now. But, as far as bringing a new coach and then expecting him to say, okay, you're going to dominate the conference now, it's not realistic. People always do that for college football with SEC coaches. With when Jim Harbaugh got hired at the Wolverines, people expected him year 1 to be 11-1 and contend for a national champion. And even now, they still expect him to say, you should be contending for national champions. Look what we did in 1930. All right. It's not realistic. With a conference with a whole bunch of talent in it, in a deep conference, it's not going to be a 1 or 2 year process. You can't expect any coach to revitalize a program in a 1 or 2 year process. You have to give it some time. I think Archie Miller, personally, if I was the AD, I probably would have gave him a couple more years because I see what he did in Dayton and with the Flyers and revitalize that and make it a big basketball program. And, give him more tools to work with. Maybe hire that shooting coach for him, or maybe give him a 2 year extension on a make or break it deal. I don't. And as far as moving on, I don't know where you go if you're Indiana. Hire a Duke assistant. I'm assuming that's probably what they're going to do. You cannot expect the same results though, or better results outside of Archie Miller.
Loro, I'm going to go to you next on this. Archie Miller was, I believe his record as the head coach at Indiana was 67-58 in his 4 seasons there from 2017 to 2021. This season he finished 12-15, and Indiana pays a $10 million buyout for him to not coach in Bloomington, Indiana anymore. What was your reaction to this news that Indiana parted ways with their head coach? And where do you think Indiana goes from here now that Archie Miller is officially gone in Bloomington?
I felt like that the Indiana Hoosiers should have given him another chance. But from like what Sammy said, it probably was the best decision from what I understand for them to move on. But I do think the Hoosiers should bring John Beilein to be their head coach. They need to get back to the big dance. They need to be back into being a top-ranked college basketball team.